What drives me? That's a big question. Lots of things drive me, but at the core, what drives me are the same things that drive everybody else, which is our core human values. It's a really fascinating thing to look at, and you start studying this stuff, looking at all the different fields of behavioral science, which is really about what's driving you to do one thing versus another. And you can talk to psychologists, psychiatrists, sociologists, neurologists, everybody who's involved in a behavioral science, and they're all going to say pretty much exactly the same thing, which is that at the end of the day, at the end of the process, at the end of all the analysis, what drives humans is our values. And so that's why we have spent so much time at my company turning values into data, because they're fundamentally the most important thing to understand if you want to connect to people and engage with people. So yeah, what drives me? My values, the same thing that drives you. I knew that was going to be the follow-up question. What are my values? And I'm the values guy. That's what I talk about. I'm a human values expert. So everybody always wants to know what my values are. And like all of us, there's only 56 values that you could possibly have. There's only 56 things that drive people to do what they do. And many people are surprised when they hear that number. It doesn't sound like a lot, you know? There's only 88 keys on a piano keyboard. So it's more complicated to play the piano than it is to understand what drives everybody, what the values are that are driving everybody to do everything all over the world, which is kind of a nice unifying idea that we're not all that different from each other, no matter what some of the forces in the world would like us to believe today. We're more similar than many people would like us to believe. So my values, one of them for sure is creativity. And like everybody who values creativity, it shows up in my life in different ways. I don't know if you can really see, but if you look at the art on the walls here, I'm a huge art collector. It's one of my passions, and it stems from this value of creativity. I really love seeing amazing examples of creativity, and fine artists are a unique kind of creativity because they're not answering to anybody, right? They're not doing it for a product or for a brand, or they're doing it because they need to do it. So they get to be creative in a pure sense. Another value that's incredibly important to me is friendship. It's another one of the 56 that rules my life. When you're my friend, you are my family. And it's there's no I don't really see a difference between the two. In fact, when everybody talks about what did they miss the most during lockdown, during the pandemic lockdown and isolation, and for me it was going to the gym and seeing my big sweaty gym buddies who the way big sweaty gym guys say I love you and you're my friend at the gym is they insult each other. So I used to kind of joke and say that I'm missing being insulted by big sweaty gym guys. So there's two: friendship and creativity. The best advice I've ever received, I've been fortunate enough to have some pretty amazing mentors in my life. And one of them is, I'm going to name drop, is my really close, dear friend, Douglas Copeland. He wrote a novel years ago that kind of launched his ship called Generation X. And since then, has written so many best-selling novels and works of nonfiction and plays and TV shows and films, and I lose track of all this stuff. He's a fine artist. His art's collected by people all over the world. He's in institutions all over the world. I forget sometimes what he's up to. So much stuff. True polymath. Anyway, the advice that he gave me that I think is the best advice I've ever received is three things. Write lots. Spend time writing. Second, meet people. And third, be the most extreme version of yourself that you can possibly be. And I try and live by that. For the longest time, I actually had it on the front of my phone. Write lots, meet people, and be the most extreme version of yourself that you can be. In one sentence. Well, people who know me know that I can't do anything in one sentence. I can't even brief the sushi delivery guy in less than 10 minutes. So My life mission in one sentence is I want to change the way everyone looks at each other. Let me give you a little bit of a background on that. If we can just change the way we look at each other, if we can just start to understand what's on the inside instead of looking at each other based on what's on the outside, what you can see is a lie. Whether you're male or female, black or white, rich or poor, tall or short, fat or skinny, none of that stuff has anything to do with who people really, really are. So if we can get down to that level of seeing each other based on what's inside, I think the world will be a much, much better place. And that's why we do the work we do. And that's why I put in the hours I put in. That's why I love to speak, and that's why I write my books. It's to try and get everybody to change the way they look at each other. That's a nice way to say it. Success for me is being able to be true to my values in everything that I do. And I think it's the same for everyone. I'm so spoiled. I have built myself a life where I'm very much values aligned. I love my work. I love the people who are around me. I've built an environment to live in and work in that's exactly what I want it to be. So I live a very values aligned life. I realize I'm spoiled, and there's many people who don't get to do that. And so it's part of our mission is to try and show people how they can understand what their own values are, the values of the people around them, the values of the people they're going to encounter all day long, how to get a values-driven lens on, so that's the first step, right? Understand your values, understand the values that are motivating you, and then work to get your life aligned with that. And that, I guarantee, is the secret to happiness. I like to tell stories. And being a good speaker is about telling good stories and telling them in a way that delivers some useful information to people and, gives them a story that they can carry on and give to someone else. Stories are like the currency of relationships, right? So when you sit down to talk to someone, what you're doing is trading stories with each other. You're trading currency. And you meet somebody a second time and you're trading some more stories, and a third time and a fourth time you end up trading a lot of stories with people. And if your stories are still resonating for each other, if you're still finding yourself aligned around your values, and those stories are a way of testing that, well, then those people become your best friends. And the one that it happens with the most is the person you end up spending the rest of your life with, if you're lucky. I feel the same about an audience when I'm a speaker. My job is to get up there, understand what's on their mind, try and figure out how to deliver a series of stories around the data that we bring to the table about values, but translate that data into stories that are meaningful and that help the audience go out and live a better life and do a better job and think about each other in a better way. So yeah, I guess if I had to just pick one, I'd say my ability to tell stories, which hopefully is evident in that answer. I'm not sure it is. What is my biggest weakness? Carbohydrates? No, I'm gonna be more serious than that. My biggest weakness would have to be my friends. I'll do anything for the people I care about. I've done stupid things because somebody needed things from me. Yeah, my biggest weakness is I don't like to see other people suffering. I don't like to see other people in a bad place. I don't like to see other people having a hard time, and I always try and do everything I possibly can to help them, and to my own detriment sometimes. But yeah, there it is. That's the answer. The most important lesson I've learned so far, there's so many of them, you wake up these days, you get to a certain age and you start waking up every day and going, what am I going to learn today? What am I wrong about now? And initially it kind of annoys you, and then you realize that, gosh, like the more I'm wrong, the more I'm learning new things. So it's a good place to get to. So one of the most important things I've learned so far is a bit of a contradiction initially when I tell you what it is. Bukowski wrote, and it's on his tombstone actually, "Don't try," which I think is, it sounds like, what's the guy talking about? Of course you need to try. Well, his point was, you don't need to try. You already are who you are. Who you are and what you have to offer is already set. So your job is to be the biggest version of that you can possibly be. Not to try and be something else, not to try and be someone who you aren't, not to try and hide some part of yourself. Don't try, just be. Just be the biggest and loudest and craziest version of yourself you can possibly be. I think it was Janis Joplin who said, "Let your freak flag fly." I may be wrong about the source of that quote, but I love the line, "Let your freak flag fly." So yeah, that's the biggest lesson I've learned so far. Be comfortable with who you are, figure out what makes you different than everybody else, what your unique you is, and then get out there and be the biggest version of that you can possibly be.